Hi guys, so while the Prime Minister was delivering his address to Parliament about the improvement in the relationship between the UK and the EU this week, Brexiteers were somewhat down in the dumps. They're desperate for something to cling on to as a betrayal, and even their prize of changing the dates on fishing quotas has turned out to be a damp squib. DUP MP Gavin Robinson, who should be celebrating this deal, and I'll explain why he should be in just a moment, was complaining about farm animal medicines, in a vain attempt to paint the agreement in a very bad light. Pretty desperate stuff, but then we are talking about the DUP.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will recognise that successive governments and successive parliaments have caused unnecessary and at times intolerable damage to our union. So we can recognise the reduction of some checks on some issues. But can he explain to this House why, if the animals and their products that are able to come to Northern Ireland now free of checks are suitable, why is the European Union still intent on banning the very veterinary medicines that those animals take? If standards are the same in the United Kingdom and the European Union, and this Parliament has already decided that the CE markings will be retained, why are products and manufactured goods not part of this arrangement? And will he confirm to this Parliament that is his intention as Prime Minister to rid Northern Ireland of the Windsor framework and get rid of the barriers within our union?
Yeah. Oh my goodness, the hypocrisy here is off the scale. Okay, first of all, Gavin Robinson should be celebrating, popping those champagne corks, because this is reducing the friction between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. It is eliminating certain checks. Now, the DUP should be happy, but the DUP are never happy. They wanted Brexit, but they didn't want the consequences of Brexit. The British government and the European Union have jumped through hoops to pander to them, and they're still not happy. The DUP will never be happy. Now, he mentioned here about, well, why are animals and animal products coming in and they're not being checked, but the medicines are being checked, or the medicines aren't allowed in? Because this deal covers food. It doesn't cover products. See, Great Britain is not part of the customs union. It's not part of the single market. Northern Ireland is. That hasn't changed. So when goods are coming in, they have to be checked. Now, certain checks on food have been reduced or eliminated. That's a positive. But of course, the DUP will not celebrate that because they are not getting the Brexit they wanted. Of course, the Brexit they want is a hard border on the island of Ireland. Now, when he mentioned also about the Windsor framework, no, the Windsor framework is not going away until the UK as a whole rejoins the European Union, or at least the single market and the customs union. But let's hear what Starmer had to say about that.
Well, can I thank him for his question? As he will know, the SPS agreement that we have negotiated is good for Northern Ireland, because it means that the current SPS agreement for Northern Ireland now is complemented by and comes up against the agreement for the UK as a whole, and that will be
they're never happy. Just looking at the imagery, they're never happy. Sorry about that.
Now is complemented by and comes up against the agreement for the UK as a whole, and that will be a huge step forward for Northern Ireland, which I know he cares about and others care about and I care about, and it is amongst the advantages of the SPS deal that we have struck. On the question of vet meds, I do understand the issue, and we're working to resolve the particular problem that he has set out, and he's right to do so.
There isn't a problem. Farmers in Northern Ireland can access these medicines from the EU. They can buy them in the Republic of Ireland, or they can buy them from within the EU itself. There is no issue. There is an issue if you want to get the medicines from GB. But once again, the DUP are just desperate for something to complain about.
So, but we're working to resolve that. I think we're in a better position to resolve it by cooperating and coordinating with the EU, which is what we are doing. On the Windsor framework, it is important that we implement the agreements that we have in place, because the blunt truth is nobody will make further agreements with a country that walks away from the agreements they've already put in place.
Well said. Well said. Starmer is completely correct here. If the UK walks away from the Windsor Framework, then why would the EU continue any negotiations with them? Why would they say, well, we're actually going to work out more deals with you? You know, the Tories are no longer in power. The Tories who said that they wanted to tear up international law in a limited and specific way are out. The DUP are sad about that. The DUP thought they could twist the Conservatives around their finger, but that's failed. You would almost feel sorry for the DUP at this stage. They have no power, they have no influence, and the Brexit that they invested so much political capital in is falling apart. They had hoped that there would be a hard border on the island of Ireland, and instead they got a border in the Irish Sea. And now that that border has been taken away, slowly but surely, they're still upset. They're a pathetic party that should be nowhere near the levers of power. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.